Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be back with another video. As shown in the title, I'm bringing into discussion the history of the workshop as well as other community efforts / programs for Steam. Basically, anything extending from the workshop to the store page, something I believe is very often overlooked. Genuinely ask yourself, as you subscribe to add-ons for your games, have you ever pondered when a system like this was actually implemented, and what developers had to work with when the workshop couldn't cut it? For most people, they're probably thinking to themselves, well, the workshop has always been there, so I've never questioned it. Surprisingly enough, or maybe not, Steam has had its past issues with the workshop. From games like Garry's Mod to Skyrim, it was not uncommon to see improper workshop implementation. The reason for these problems often range from just lazy developers, or at the time, not enough understanding of the workshop to properly put in place a system. To fully understand when the workshop first initiated, we'll have to go back to 2011, the year of its launch. Before this, Valve had just launched Steam in 2002. Steam Community was then launched in 2007. Team Fortress 2 was released the same year, with Garry's Mod right behind it in 2006. As we're probably all aware of, Garry's Mod heavily relies on add-ons to thrive, as people get bored with the default Half-Life 2 assets. So what was the problem-solving answer that served a temporary solution? A neat, workshop-esque sharing system called Toybox. Toybox made its big announcement on July 29, 2010, and went live to players shortly after. The announcement came on Gary Newman's previously personal blog, in which noting the requirements to access his service was a Steam account with Garry's Mod installed. As for whatever reason, probably to save space on people's computers, the mods didn't actually install in your game. They temporarily were added, and once you restarted, they would disappear. Toybox had all sorts of neat add-ons to keep players entertained as they played with their friends. There's even an add-on on the workshop now for Toybox Classics. So as I said, this system was added in 2010, and so in 2011, when the workshop was officially added, it was cut loose. When the workshop was added, it was actually for Team Fortress 2, believe it or not, around the same time the Hatless update was released. Valve had accepted community items before, but it was through the contribution page hosted through the TF2 official website. On October 13, 2011, the workshop went live alongside the Maniversary update, aiming to make item contributions more public. Though as this was a big decision for Valve, it didn't go unnoticed. Valve then extended support for any game in early 2012 to share across various communities. Some went into reworking multiple features for compatibility reasons, as not all games worked with this new feature, those being Portal 2, Dota 2, and Skyrim as mentioned earlier. Aside from the workshop, Game Banana was another popular outlet to grab mods and skins for the games you were playing, making its first opening in 2001. Gabe Newell, in correlation with the release of the workshop, also hinted at monetizing it, stating it was inspired by gold farming from World of Warcraft, to find a way to incentive both players and content creators to show their approach to Team Fortress and other multiplayer titles. The workshop stayed the same for a while until the year 2015. By 2015, Valve had provided user-developed content as paid-for features in some of their titles. As you probably would already know, these titles were mostly composed of Team Fortress 2 and the lesser-played Dota 2. As this feature went live, it was pulled only a few days later due to negative user feedback and reports of pricing and copyright misuse. Despite pulling it, Valve has shown they are still interested in offering this type of function again in the future, but would change up the implementation to avoid their past mistake. In November 2015, the Steam client was then updated with the ability for developers to offer in-game items for sale with the store interface. Russ was the first to implement this feature. Ever since that update of the workshop, everything stayed about the same. But right now, after all this, you're probably asking yourself, what did the old workshop look like? Well, would it surprise you if I said it wasn't much different to the one that we all know today? Seeing it was implemented around the middle of Steam's development, the theme of the old workshop falls into the same UI that we have modernly. Personally, I prefer the old-looking version of Steam to what we have now, but that's just a preference. Nothing too crazy like the old green Steam UI, it still has that gray gradient with it and everything feels a lot more compact compared to what we have now. As time went on, the workshop wasn't the only thing attracting people for its community-based uploading. Steam had another community feature often overlooked by people, one that is currently discontinued. This one is called Greenlight, announced in 2012. Now, if you were around for it, you probably already know what I'm talking about, though if you weren't, I'll try and fill you in on its purpose before it was discontinued. Steam Greenlight was a way of ensuring community-based quality control. This system would allow players to decide which games could be added onto Steam and what games shouldn't. The top pledged games on Greenlight would then be added onto Steam with Valve's assistance, though because this was also a free submission service, its reliability slowly was diminished due to multiple false submissions and inappropriate games. It was then added to pay $100 to list the game on the service to reduce the amount of illegitimate submissions. All fees from this would be given to the charity Child's Play. Down the line, more criticism was given to this process as many indie developers already had a tight budget trying to sell a title. Not only this, but the rate that games were being accepted at was very slow. Although developers favored the idea, it was obvious that it was too much work for people at Valve to keep a system like this running. Announced in January 2013, Gabe Newell stated Valve recognized the role of Greenlight, it being perceived as a bottleneck, something they had been trying to eliminate. Later down the line, on the eve of Greenlight's first anniversary, Valve approved 100 games through the process to demonstrate the change in direction. While this service was interesting and helped to bring varying games, a complaint was that it excessively flooded a large number of games on Steam that would make it difficult for one just to stand out. By 2014, Greenlight had talks of being totally phased out, and then it happened. Overall, Greenlight was a very short-lived program, its total runtime being only 2 years, replaced by Steam Direct, which came in June of 2017. With this new system, a developer wishing to distribute their game would show appropriate identification by using tax forms for Valve, and then paying a fee of $100 on the game they want to publish, which should be refunded if the game exceeds $1,000 in sales. This system is still in place today, changing very little over time, and very little coverage from Valve. Honestly, I wish the aspects of these programs got documented more. There's a lot of good history to the things we still enjoy up to today, even if it's as simple as a mechanic along add-ons to use in a server. Steam has had some other services that failed to start up besides the ones I mentioned, though they're relatively pretty small and have near to no info. One of these projects, if you believe it or not, was a program called Steam for Schools. It wasn't a literal program, but it was a function-limited version of Steam which is free of charge for teachers to use in class. During this time, Valve was exploring the usage of their talent for things like education. This version of Steam was released with Portal 2 for free, and a standalone program called Puzzle Maker that allowed teachers to create and change levels. Teachers could additionally even download workshop add-ons for students with some security measures in place, though for whatever reason, it was stopped. I could definitely see it being pretty cool having to play with Portal in class. It's sad this wasn't able to adapt with its environment. This is a bit different from one of my videos, but I hope you enjoyed the topic nonetheless. As I've come to notice, not many people really think about this sort of thing often, if you're always used to it. But regardless, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next and what you thought. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and I'm out.